Happy birthday! Of course, I'm quoting Frosty the Snowman because today is our special holiday edition of KDM. KDM standing for Kit Demetri Movies. So alongside me is my good friend, co-host, critique, Kit Bowen. Hey,
Hi, Demetri.
how
Happy
are
holidays
you?
to you.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
I
I said it
know.
was a special holiday edition, so just to set the uh, just to make things perfectly clear, although this would be a good show next year to do our favorite holiday movies.
Oh,
But
yeah.
alas, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And you might think that this is that show. It's not. Instead, our show today is about our favorite and not so favorite movies of 2023. And I think it's fair, folks, this is not a prognostication show. The movies that we talk about, I mean, some of which may be nominated, some which may not be nominated. We're not here to talk about the Oscars just yet, but we are here to talk about movies that were our favorite, like we went to, and they elicited a really happy, good response because we liked them. And the ones that we didn't like, I don't know. Kit can speak for herself when we get to that part. For me, it's, for me, it was a lot of it was movies where I had very high expectations, and this happens to any moviegoer. You
Oh, yeah.
can go into a movie and have high expectations, and you come out going, "What the hell happened?" So that's a lot of my stinkers of 2023. And I think I don't know about you, Kit, but 2023 was a very fascinating year
It
for
was.
movies. For me, I call it was a pleasantly surprising year for movies. What do I mean by that? I mean, there were a lot of movies where I had zero expectation going in, or sometimes even lower than zero. And I walked out of the movie going, God, that was actually really good.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
And that happened more often than not. So I don't know if it was the same for you. What did you think? Like overall, before we get into it, before we drill down into our list, overall, what did you think of 2023?
Well, I think we've touched on this on many of our review podcasts, but I feel like the first half of the year, certainly going into the summer, there were some really good ones. A couple of them are on my list, actually. That you know, the expectations were met and exceeded. So, and then, but as movie reviewers, as we all know, this time of the year is kind of like what used to be anyway for me when I was writing reviews all the time. Was like, what April would be for accountants. There's just, the glut of films that you had to
That's
watch
so funny.
between November and December to get all the reviews in, which is sometimes it was just, just too much. And I feel like this year it's, again, similar situation, but I feel like the latter half of this year has been characterized by, bloated epic-y kind of films with mixed in with these very weird and certainly polarizing type films, where it was just too weird for words and I couldn't get into it, or it was weird and I really kind of did like it, so it's kind of been an interesting. There always seems to be a pattern, though. I swear to God, every single Oscar season or whatever, there is a pattern, and I feel like the pattern is that, which is sort of the offbeat, quirky, weird,
Mhm.
gross, like weirdly gross
Yep.
films mixed in with some epic-y films mixed in with maybe
Yeah.
surprise hits. So it's been you're right. A surprisingly eclectic and interesting year, good and bad.
Yeah, and further to your point, yeah, you're right. We have talked about it. We are in agreement that the first half of the year, the movies were better to an extent. Like I don't know, there was more to be entertained by,
Mhm.
and there were far more, I think, hits than misses. And going into this, as you say, award season, I couldn't have described it better than you, and I won't. So I will stop right there because you said it perfectly
Yeah.
about this crop of films. Although there are some really good ones, some of them made my list. So, folks, here's how we're gonna do it. We each had like five movies. We'll start from five and go to one, and then we'll talk maybe some honorable mentions. That because we have five, these lists are usually about 10, like our top 10.
Right.
But I like honorable mentions because they can go in any particular order that you want, and we're not dedicating a number to it, but we're saying, hey, these movies are worthwhile. Some of them are streaming already. They're on cable. They're available on Blu-ray. So you should go seek them out. And I have a feeling that, what's in our top five and what might be in our honorable mentions could differ. And then after that, we're going to go into the movies that that were not our favorites. And those, I didn't put a number on them because the worst movie, to
Right.
win worst movie is like, yeah, what's the point? They were just not good movies. So it doesn't matter. They're all on the same level.
Yep.
So, what do we? And again, Kit, we always start off with you,
Okay.
ladies first. What was your number five this
Barbie.
year? Barbie. Okay.
Barbie.
Interesting.
I'm actually gonna probably rewatch it again here because my mom hasn't seen it. She's visiting me, so we're gonna probably watch it again. It's just, it's one of those things that every time I see a clip from it, it just makes me smile. I thought it was very entertaining. I know, that thematically, I know you had some issues with it, but other than, some of the messages it was delivering, I enjoyed. And the performances were just top notch between Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. They just, especially Ryan Gosling, just made the movie even more funny and sweet and, meaningful. So yeah, number five for me is Barbie.
Awesome. Yeah, we talked about Barbie earlier this year. And right now it's all over Max and things like that. So, all right, that was your number five. My number five was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Why? A lot of people, I'm sure, will be upset or they don't, whatever. For me, being a lifelong Indiana Jones fan since Raiders of the Lost Ark, this to me was the perfect ending for a character that I have loved. And it was the perfect setting, the perfect ending that I can see this character going out on. And it was we opened with a very different Indiana Jones that we've been accustomed to. He was a broken man. He's older, and this movie really addresses that age of far more than Crystal Skull ever did.
Yeah.
And for me, it provided, even though it wasn't under the helm of Steven Spielberg, it still provided some good old-fashioned serial B-movie entertainment, had great characters, and of course the lovable Indiana Jones and Marion is also in the movie. So for me, my number five movie was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
And I agree with a lot of you. I did like that movie as well, but not quite as much as you did, but
Maybe makes
definitely.
your honorable mentions.
No,
Oh, oh.
it was good, but yeah, there were some others that I liked more than so. But
Fair.
on par, I mean, it's kind of tough because I was trying to find five that I really hated, and it was a little tough for me to find something I actually really just didn't like about it, but because I'm easy on movies. So my
What's
number
your number
four,
four? Yeah.
um, you know what? I'm kind of vacillating here. I think I'm gonna do Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Fair.
I mean, honestly, one of the best action films of all time, in my opinion. And I've loved, like I've said this many times already, I've loved the Mission Impossible movies, but this one just topped everything. I can't wait to watch it again. I don't know if it's streaming yet or not. I think it's close. Um, but
It should be on Paramount Plus because
is
the
it
Blu-ray's out.
okay?
So I mean, I own it on Blu-ray. So my get usually it hits digital before it hits Blu-ray. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
my
sure
guess.
it's there. I just haven't really quite looked for it yet. But yeah, I just thought that movie was just jam-packed full of great stuff. I just,
Hmm.
as an action junkie that I am, it checked all those boxes for me. And of course, Tom Cruise, as in that role, has always been one of my faves of his. So
And that was a movie we actually saw together. So
yes,
it's always fun. I want to note that because some of those movies are in my lists of things that we saw together, which even makes a bad movie. It's a spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, is basically it
we're gonna
when we
try
watch a movie
harder
together.
next year. We're gonna try harder to see movies together. I want to
Hopefully.
try to.
All right. So my number four is Susume. This is a Japanese animated movie. I actually believe it to be the best animated movie of the year. It is so. It is a very heart wrenching. It's so. This movie is packed with so many themes, and some of them very deep because the movie really is about. The movie is about disaster. It's about tragedy. It's about loss. But yet again, but yet on the other flip side, the movie has hope. The movie has heart, and the movie has laughs. Ultimately, from an animation standpoint, the most beautiful thing I've seen this year, and very fascinating original art that each frame of the film could be freeze framed and hung up on a wall.
Wow.
I just found the story to be so captivating. I've watched the movie a couple of times now, and each time I've watched it, I've enjoyed it more and more. That's not saying there are some good animated movies out this year, but there's a few, at least one of them, that makes my not so nice list. But this one really stuck out to me, and I can't.
Hmm.
I guess it was just so beautiful. So Susume is my number four movie of 2023. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Just seek it out. It's just wonderful to watch, and it's got such a great story to it. So yeah.
All right. Sounds
What is your number three?
my number three is The Holdovers. Um, Alexander Payne is actually one of my favorite directors. I think I know he didn't write this, but I still feel, his touches throughout it, and it's a story that he could have easily written. There's something about the way he frames relationships and conversations with people and dialogue, and just paints a picture that is so indelible, and you can just put yourself right there and relate to it. So even though this was set in the 70s, I think, something like that,
70s, uh-huh.
at a boys' school, and these a few kids who are called holdovers, meaning they don't can't go home for Christmas during the Christmas break, so they have to stay at the school, the boarding school, and it actually ends up dwindling down to just one kid who ends up having to stay, and the professor or the teacher who has to be the monitor or the supervisor is played by Paul Giamatti. um and he's kind of a curmudgeon. I mean, there is some cliches to it, but it didn't seem that way. It seemed, still surprisingly fresh, even though you kind of knew what was going to happen, maybe. But yeah, he plays this curmudgeonly, you know, notoriously hated teacher at the school of history, and but the kid that's left over, oh, I've forgotten who plays him anyway. It's a
It's like Michael Sess. We should
newcomer.
look it up.
Yeah, he's a newcomer,
Yes.
and he was just, so, full of bravado, but obviously masking some emotional trauma there, including, his family upbringing, and how they end up bonding together. And then you add in the cook,
Dominic Sessa.
Dominic said,
Dominic Sessa. I said Michael. Dominic Sessa, who plays Angus Tully.
yes.
Yes.
And then you
Yep.
throw into the mix the head chef, I guess, or the head cook of the
Yep.
school, who also
Mary Lamb.
played by how do you say, Davina?
Devine Joy
Div-
Randolph, or
Randolph,
is it
Divine Joy
Divine
Randolph.
Joy
Yeah,
Randolph? Yeah,
she's popped up in some movies that I always enjoy her performances, but she was really just, she plays a woman grieving for her son who's killed in Vietnam, and she kind of, but also this, sort of motherly type, and just the dynamics between these three and what they end up having to go through this little period of time where they're stuck there at the school. It was just so well done, so well acted. I know it's getting a lot of buzz, and it absolutely Oscar buzz, and it absolutely should. It deserves it. So yeah, and it was nice to see, because I know Alexander Payne has slipped to here and there, but it's nice to see his name back on the hit
agreed.
list, because yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites. I think The Descendants is one of my most favorite movies.
Oh my God, The Descendants I love, and I actually I couldn't agree with you more. And The Holdovers is your number three. Why? Because I also chose it as my number three.
Yay!
I kid you not. It is my number three movie for pretty much the same reasons. Look, Alexander Payne. Yes, you said something about the way he frames relationships. I also believe it's how he tells the story and utilizes his actors to pull out these great performances.
Yes.
And I actually think, like, for as long as Paul Giamatti has been doing this, and let's, it's fair to say, I think about Giamatti, and this is not an insult. He's a journeyman actor, meaning
Yes.
he's all over cable,
Yep.
right? He does a lot of stuff for cable and things, and he does various films, but he's on cable a lot, like a lot of like cable shows, streaming shows. But he also will do these movies,
Well,
and
he does have a relationship with Alexander Payne, because Sideways is
yeah,
another film of
sad.
mine that
Mm-hmm.
for me, I feel like that's Giamatti's best performance. This was close to it, but I still feel like Sideways was just a smidge better, but same
Yeah, to me,
same concept.
this is a career best. And for me, it's next to I love them in Private Parts. But he is so good in this movie. But you're right, the relationships between the cook, Marion Lamb, and Angus really drive this movie. And at the end of the day, it is a journey for our two main characters,
Yes.
Giamatti's professor, Paul Hunnam, and Angus Tully, and what they come out of it with. So in a way, for Angus Tully, it's a coming of age. And it's also like you're right, it turns the curmudgeon story, it kind of puts a nice spin on it and makes it seem fresh. If you remember, a year ago around this time, we had another curmudgeon story with A Man Called Otto
Yeah.
with Tom Hanks. Also, another really good movie. And when you do these movies right and smart, they really do tug at the heart,
Yeah.
but they make it worthwhile,
Yeah.
other than being cliche. And this movie had a great journey for all three characters, and that's
Yes.
what I really appreciated
Yes.
about the holders. And it captured wintry New England perfectly. So
Yep.
the holdovers is my number three as
Yep.
well. What is your number two
Well,
movie?
this might surprise you. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. My
Maybe.
number two is Maestro. Bradley Cooper's directorial not debut. He directed
No.
Star is Born, right? Um I know it's interesting, but I it was one of those films that has grown on me the more I think about it and the more I really liked
Mm-hmm.
it. Um everyone's talking about the nose and everything, and sure enough, he looks like Leonard Bernstein. But this, what I found interesting and interestingly surprising, because at first I was a little disappointed, but then I thought about it, I go, no, that actually makes sense. The story isn't about Leonard Bernstein's career.
Right.
It is peppered with his beautiful music, including West Side Story, and
Sure.
and it has all of those elements in it. But I thought it would be about him composing things. No, it was
Right.
about
It's
his relationship with his wife, his long-suffering wife, I should say,
right.
because he was gay as well, or bisexual or whatever, and he
Right.
preferred to be with men more than he, did. But he loved his wife, played so brilliantly by Carey Mulligan. My God.
Carrie, right.
I hope she gets an Oscar here at some point. I don't think it'll be for this, but At some point in time, she needs to get an Oscar. Um, I just was I their scenes together were so um from them falling in love to them, having a fight in front of in this big, you know, New York bedroom that's overlooking Manhattan or whatever the main drag is that the Macy's Day Parade goes by. And there was just such um just I don't want to use the word chemistry. It's more than that. There was just an electricity between the two of them when they had to sing this together. And I think, Bradley Cooper's a pretty good actor. I'm not gonna fault him for that. But I think him acting next to Carey Mulligan brought him up a level,
Uh-huh.
And that scene where you do finally see him conducting. It brought me to tears,
Huh?
especially the end of it when, he hasn't seen his wife for a long time, and there she is, and he goes over, and the first thing he does is goes over to her and, kisses her, and she's like shocked that he's standing there kissing her, and everyone's just, the house has been brought down by this beautiful conducting performance. And then, in true life, she does get lung cancer, and he takes care of her, um in her final years or whatnot. Again, another beautiful scene I thought was, you don't really necessarily see her dying, but you look out a window and you see one of their kids running out into the backyard, and he comes running out after them, and he like picks him up and picks up the young kid and carries him in. And you think, oh, she's passed, and this is how they're doing. I don't know. I walked away with it. It was just a myriad of emotions. I think Bradley is a kind of like Ben Affleck. He's actually got a true talent for directing. He
Mhm.
knows it. He gets it, and he framed this thing. And I know it took him a long time to do this, and it was a passion project. But he followed through on this. I thought this was it was tremendous. I did. I loved it. So my
Oh,
stress
good.
too.
That's your number two. Okay. Well, my number two is Air. Speaking of, you
Yeah,
mentioned Ben
that's one of my
Affleck.
honorable mentions.
Yeah, this was a movie that I didn't from the trailer, I was kind of in. It seemed like it was going to be this fascinating story. And it's a movie about America. It's perseverance, uh, in invention,
Yes.
and pushing forward when the stakes are against you. It's an underdog story, and it plays somewhat like a sports movie. You got some excellent performances in there from Matt Damon. Ben Affleck is also in it. I think his direction is superb in this movie. Chris Tucker, who we haven't seen on the big screen in a while, was fantastic. Jason Bateman's also in this movie, and
Yeah,
uh, it's a true story that, well, we grew up with, like, and I think everybody knows Air Jordans.
yeah,
But what this movie really highlights is the fact that how Air Jordans almost never came to be,
yeah,
in a sense, right?
yeah,
And how this one, at the time, unsung basketball player who was showing promise, and then this Air Jordan strikes a fashion chord and it becomes so huge. But this is that journey of just staying on course and believing in your heart this is going to work. It really is an underdog story, and it's a true, it's a feel good movie.
yeah.
And
No,
so
it's a
my
good
number
one.
two, yeah, so
I,
that's
I
my number two.
definitely, I would definitely, that's one of my honorable mentions, I will say. And it was just top notch from start to finish. And even though you know how it ends, kind of thing, it was still the
Yeah,
journey of watching what happened was pretty fascinating.
and isn't that you bring up an interesting point, because you kind of know how it, well, we know Air Jordans exist. Even knowing that, what it took for them to exist
Yeah,
is the story.
Yep.
And it's fascinating, even though you think like you know what the ending is, but it's that ride and how it got there. It's crazy. But at the same time, and you're actually rooting for people as if you're rooting for Rocky Balboa or
Yeah.
a team.
Yeah.
You're rooting for Matt Damon and this company to get
To
it
do it,
done.
man. And
Do
it's
it, just
Nike.
do it. And
And it's
yeah,
Nike.
right,
I mean, one of the biggest freaking corporations in the world now,
right.
and they weren't back then. You're like, go Nike. Like,
Yeah,
how Nike ends up, but still it did. It brings
right.
it in like that.
Yeah, yeah, you root for him. So that's my number two. So what was your number one?
But I think is your number one. Can we say it at
Okay.
the same time?
This would
One,
be funny if it's not, but
two,
okay. Three,
three.
two, one. The color purple.
Oh, nope.
Nope. Told you.
Oppenheimer.
Yep. The color purple for me.
Yeah, Oppenheimer for me. I didn't like the color purple.
Well, there you go.
But I didn't put it on my worst list because I won't do that. But no, let me talk. Well, we've said so much about Oppenheimer already. You guys know,
Yes.
I thought it was amazing. It was epic. It was a history lesson I wanted to learn. Performances were amazing. I just think it was top notch filmmaking by Christopher Nolan. This might be his year. This might be his year. Um, and right, and deservedly so. I think he's a tremendous filmmaker. So Oppenheimer for me.
Well, it was the color purple for me. Reason being, Oppenheimer is definitely my honorable mention, and it was in my top five. I wanted my top five to be reflective of. I mean, it's hard to pick five. It's easier to do 10, but when you're limiting it to five, so a movie like Suzume took a spot that maybe an Oppenheimer would have had, and things, and I do love Oppenheimer. I don't disagree with you that I think that there is a very good possibility, but I actually think that this is the year I think this year Oscar will go purple. Um, I mean, that movie surprised me.
It
I
didn't
didn't
get
know what to
nominated for a
expect.
Golden Globe. That doesn't bode well.
That doesn't matter. Golden Globes,
Yeah.
they've already been proven to be racist, anyways. And so, the color purple, it surprised me. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I got into the music, I got into the direction, the performances reeled me in, and I thought that the movie worked. Is it perfect? No, it actually suffers a little bit from Napoleon complex, meaning some characters show up in the movie who seemingly are important, then they disappear for no, and they're not given any reason. But I liked the performances from top down, and I really enjoyed the music numbers. I thought there was a great energy, a musical energy in the movie, and the music moved it moved everything forward to me. And I mean, the movie surprised me as to how much I liked it. So it's tough for me because Oppenheimer, you expect a Christopher Nolan movie to be great, and Oppenheimer delivered, whereas Tenet didn't. Like, if it were that year of Tenet probably would have made my not so good list.
Oh,
Because you
absolutely.
always,
I'm not
right?
saying he hasn't made some missteps. He absolutely
No,
has.
no, no. But you go in with expectations, and you said it. It really did meet. He bounced back in a big way, I think, with Oppenheimer. Cillian Murphy is fantastic. Robert Downey Jr. puts in a fabulous performance. This was another movie you and I saw together, and we saw it together in a format where if I'd have to go back to the review, but if memory serves, only 6 theaters in the country were able to showcase it in true IMAX
Yeah.
form, and it is amazing. There's no doubt in my mind, and whatever accolades it's gotten, it's deserved. Whatever nominations it gets, it's deserved. It really is. I go into the color purple because for me that was a movie I knew nothing about the director, this Blitz gentleman. we know The Color Purple. It's one of those things. Did it need to be remade? And I think they made a very strong case in the movie. I walked out of the movie. I was really surprised, and um, for me, it was very energetic, colorful, some beautiful set pieces, especially one that dealt with a gramophone.
Well,
Yeah, I thought the
I
music. So
I just
that's my number one.
well, let me just give you my take, real quick take on Color Purple.
Sure.
I am not a big musical fan, so right there, that's just gonna have to be who I am. So, and none of the songs on this appeal to me, except for the ones that came from the original movie. Um, I just kept watching it, feeling like I wanted to watch the original. I'm sorry, I did.
Don't apologize. You don't
I'm
have to
just saying that
apologize to me.
I just didn't. It did not wrap, grab me. Or there were some great performances. Fantasia has Barrio has an amazing voice. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
fault her for any of that. And I know her big standing number or whatever is a great, she does amazingly singing that. But I don't know. I feel like Whoopi Goldberg put in a more poignant performance as Celie, because it's such a tough, well, Fantasia just put her own spin on it, and I didn't like it as much as Whoopi. So, I mean, and again, I thought Whoopi, I mean, I thought Oprah Winfrey was a stronger Sophia. I thought but the one that really, actually, I would say Coleman Domenico was probably my favorite part of Color Purple
Mm.
as Mister. I thought he was spectacular.
Yeah,
But
I liked him a lot.
I think the biggest disappointment for me was Shug, played by
Wow.
Taji Henson. I don't know. I just felt
Right.
like she was forcing it a lot, and I missed, I don't know, I've forgotten the actress who played her in the original, but that whole rousing number where she's walking down the road to her dad in the church and she's singing that gospel song, and it's so amazing in the original, and then they tamper it down to this sort of more subtle, quiet performance just between Sugar and her dad in the church, and I miss that big rousing gospel number. I don't know. That's just my take.
Well, it's interesting to me that we could close out our mini review, I guess, of The Color Purple. When Spielberg came out with the movie, and even up until as recently as not too long ago, let's say, people always said, even back then, what was it, 1980? When was that? When did
90
Color
something,
Purple?
92
Was
maybe.
it 92? People like, he's the wrong person to tell this story. He shouldn't be telling. Why is he telling the story? And
Right.
in all honesty, he chose the project because like he just wanted to be literally accepted, and he had hoped like he was making movies that audiences loved. With the exception of maybe 1941, which I actually do
Yeah.
like. And Hollywood was shunning him for being successful and
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
movies that audiences, I mean, when a movie like E.T. loses,
Yeah.
so he's like, yeah, he wanted to he wanted to do something. He wanted to challenge himself creatively, and he also wanted it was, it was obvious. He wanted to try to get Hollywood to kind of notice him, that he's not just a commercial director, but he can bring his commercial
But
sensibility
he
to
also
the
put
story.
together a pretty crackpot team to
Oh,
like Oprah, produced it,
amazing.
and then Quincy Jones did the score. I mean, it was amazing.
He was no dummy. I mean, but that's the thing, and he still didn't win. And when you look at that movie, Whoopi Goldberg, I believe, won for it was her first film,
Yeah,
right?
she
And
got nominated, but she didn't win. No.
it was no Golden Globes for that movie
Oh,
or
she may
anything.
have.
Maybe
She
may,
may have.
but in any case, it was her first movie. He had great talent. I don't disagree with you. It's a very good movie, but people is like, he shouldn't tell that story. It's not his story to tell. And I'm like, why not? Like, why not? So he gets shunned, and now this movie comes out, and the irony of it all is, if it wins anything, Spielberg still wins because he produced this alongside Oprah. And that to me is, I don't know. I just find that
Yeah,
ironical, so to speak. But we'll see.
we'll
So
see.
we'll go into our honorable mentions.
Quickly, quickly.
Yeah, quickly. So go ahead and knock and
Okay, so my honorable mentions, Air, definitely. I did love that. Gran Turismo. I finally did watch it. Loved it. Just
right.
loved it.
Yes.
Again, it's kind of like an Air story where you might not know the history of it, but it's a true story about, gamers who ended up becoming, well, this one kid becoming an actual race car driver and winning. It was very inspirational. David Harbour was fantastic. I love him. And yeah, I really just from start to finish was just very, very involved in that. And it was just great racing, great sports story. It was underdog. It was top notch. Also, well, I'm just gonna just throw out it again.
Yeah.
We talked about it, but
Go
Guardians of
ahead.
the Galaxy Volume 3
Sure.
was
Mm-hmm.
my favorite of the thing. So, and then the other one that I did finally get to watch, and I know it's getting a lot of buzz, is Anatomy of a Fall.
Uh-huh.
Did you watch? Did you see that?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Oh.
Wow. It is a very quiet movie. There's not a whole lot, as far as like thriller or action or any of that kind of stuff, which is fine. It's French, mostly French, but also English too. It's a court drama, is what it is, but done so spectacularly well. And of course, it's all about the writing and all about the acting. And this
Mm-hmm.
German actress, Sandra Hula, who's
Mm-hmm.
also in A Zone of Interest, which is another film that's getting a whole bunch of buzz, which I don't
Yeah.
know if I want to watch or not. It's about these, German family living next to Auschwitz, basically, and trying to make a normal life of it. I don't know if I can watch it or not, but she's in that too. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Mm.
Um, oh, but just this movie just devastated me, and it was so, so well done. And it not only was her performance amazing, but the little kid who plays her son in that was just,
Uh-huh.
highly recommend it. You might want to watch it on a streaming situation, and if you don't mind subtitles, it's kind of half and half because her character is
Right.
German in the film, and she marries a Frenchman, and he falls from their top of their house to his death, and she becomes a suspect as if she may have pushed him or he may have committed suicide, and so it becomes this court drama. But she speaks English because it's an easier language for her to speak, like between the French and the
Right.
German. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, they speak English a lot. She speaks English a lot, so it's not completely all subtitles. I know some people are like, but it's not all subtitles. Anyway, I thought it was a tremendous movie, and I'm glad I finally got a chance to see it. So those are my
Nice.
options.
That's it. Wow. I mean, so I'm
Well, I
just
mean,
gonna
I
wrap
have I have a ton more, but I'm not going to go through.
I'm just gonna rattle mine off.
Okay.
We talked about Oppenheimer. We talked about Mission Impossible. Again, this is in no particular order, but those two movies, of course. Gran Turismo, of course, makes it in there for all the reasons that you said. I also was a huge fan this year of Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh
a movie
yes.
that really surprised the heck out of me. Did not expect it to be very good at all.
No.
I also have to throw in this one was teetering to make it into my top 5. I loved American Fiction.
Yes.
I also appreciated Evil Dead Rise for horror. I was one of the few that liked The Flash and A Haunting in Venice, and of course Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So again, another movie that I was like, why do we need another one? Well, they proved me wrong.
Yep.
Very surprised. I recommend it. Joyride. I had a lot of
Joyride is
fun
fun.
with.
Joyride
Brings
is
the
a lot of
rated
fun.
R comedy back. Reminded me of a bit of like the Hangover, and a movie that I know you and I really enjoyed, The Equalizer 3.
Yes.
That was another movie that I just, again, the movie had no right being the third
Yeah.
in the series to be as good as it is.
Yep.
Look, if it's the end, perfect way for that character to go out. So that more or less is my.
Now here's one I want to throw out there that I haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
yet. I really want to see it. I'm trying to find it.
yeah.
I may have to rent it. Past Lives.
Yes. Yeah,
Did you see
I
that?
think I didn't, but I believe we should have screeners for it. I believe. I'm about to take a long plane ride, so there are a couple of movies I have that I'll probably
Yeah,
watch.
Past Lives is another one, folks, that's been getting a lot of buzz, and in fact,
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of Golden Globe nominations. Greta Lee, who I really liked in the morning show this past season of the morning show, she was in that. I want to see that, so that might be up there for me as well. I haven't
Okay.
really liked that one.
All
So.
right.
Okay,
Well, let's talk about, and again, we'll just list them.
yeah,
But there's no numbers. Let's list off the movies that,
I'll give
you
you
know.
five. I'll give you
Well, I got more, but you
five.
want me to go first, or
Yeah,
you
go
go
ahead.
first?
You go first.
Okay, so I mean, again, no particular order, but a lot of these movies, as I said before, they were movies that I had expected greatness, and it didn't deliver for various reasons. And you and I talked about a couple of these movies, so people can go back to KDM. So they are Napoleon, Saltburn, Poor Things, The Marvels, oof, Wish, the worst animated Disney movie, I think, on record. Killers of the Flower Moon, uh, an endurance test, far too long and from the wrong perspective.
We're gonna be in the minority on that one, folks, for the Oscar.
Yeah, I get it, but whatever. I'm not here to be sheep. I'm just here to say, it is what it is. The Creator, another movie that
Oh,
you and I saw
oh,
together.
forgot about that.
Oh God, right? Oh, I did not. The Nun 2. Didn't forget about that one. I didn't forget about Blue Beetle. I
Blue
also didn't forget.
Beetle. I
Yep.
finally, I struggled through it, but I watched it. How awful is that movie? Oh my God,
What?
Blue
What?
Beetle.
What about it?
So bad.
It's so bad. Rambuelo. I mean, come on, give me a
It
break.
was
The movie
the
was
most
bad.
cliche piece of shit I've
Oh,
seen in a while.
don't hold back. It was
Wow.
Beetle Dung. Yeah. And then there's Meg 2, and then Fast X.
Yeah.
So I mean, Fast X was better than the last movie, but those are the movies that
I'm
I
gonna
just
throw
did.
in a lot of those are. I'm gonna throw in
Go ahead.
Exorcist Believer,
Oh Jesus, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I'm gonna throw
Agreed.
this in the Hunger
Agreed.
Games. Hunger Games.
Okay, yeah, agreed. I should have had that. Yeah, those are. Yeah, I don't know how I missed those. Agreed, 100%. What's your list? There's got to be something
Well,
different.
you named them all. Killers of the Flower Moon, Meg 2, Blue Beetle, Exorcist, Hunger Games. Yeah. Not
And see, it's funny, right? Because you forgot The Creator, which
oh
we saw
yeah.
together, right? And that one, the more we talked about it, I just remember driving home from that, and it just got worse and worse with
Worse
every
and worse.
mile.
Worse and worse.
By the time I got home, I was like,
Yeah.
Kit's right. This movie stinks.
Yeah, yeah, I totally forgot about that one. So thank you. Yes, that's on my list.
Well, so folks, look, we're having fun doing this. We're not against like movies, and yeah, these lists are meant, they're end of the year. It's for us to recap and reminisce about the year that was 2023. For the most part, I know Kit and I loved a lot of movies, and we're on the same wavelength, and the ones that we disliked. So, this isn't saying what's going to be best, worst. These may not be on your list, and that's fine. We did this because we thought it would be a lot of fun. And I also wanted to stay away from deeply critiquing a lot of movies. Like The Color Purple, we hadn't talked about yet.
Right. That was okay.
We hadn't talked about that.
Review of
You're
Color.
right. So we hadn't talked about The Color Purple. I think it's worthy that we did what we did with it. So, but this shows, this happens every year. And I don't know, apparently, Kid, I don't know if you've been aware, and I've been really trying. I've been off social media for a little bit, because it just seems there's a cesspool of negativity, and if you don't agree with certain things. But something else that I was made aware of is that people are shunning critics for doing their worst lists of the year, and I'm like, what? Like, that's what? Like that? Everybody talks about their their best and worst, not just movies. And I don't know why movies should be absolved of that. Like, we have our favorite movies, and I guess going into next year, like January before the Oscars, I'm sure we're going to have our Oscar show.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
it probably
I
won't.
do still have to see Poor Things, so I have a feeling
Right.
we might
But
differ on that a little
but
bit. But I
but
also
what I'm thinking is that a lot of the movies that get nominated may not be reflected in today's the movies that we've talked about today,
correct.
which is perfectly fine, because we really are talking about what our favorite movies are, and sometimes what our favorites doesn't jibe with award season, let's just say.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes,
Said I
indeed.
can't wait to talk about our movies and awards.
That'll be towards the beginning of the year. We'll do an Oscar roundup. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to see all the films that are being that we think will be in contention. And yeah,
Yeah, I think
look forward to it.
we'll do.
That's
Yeah,
my
and I think we
favorite.
should do a post-mortem nomination. So after the nominations come out,
Yes.
we should talk about,
Yes.
because people love that.
Yes, they do.
So, and we love people,
We do
don't
love
we?
people. We love
We
people
do
who love
love people.
movies.
And we do love people who love movies. Kit, I love you.
Love you
I
too.
hope you have a very Merry Christmas. I'm sure we'll be in touch. But I really do hope that you and your family have a safe, happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And
Same to you, my friend.
starting this show is definitely one of the highlights of this year, and getting to do something together with you. We've talked about it for almost as long as we've known each other. And we've been on various shows, Popcorn Talk Network and such, but this is we made this a reality this year, and it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully for you, the audience, you find it fun too. So Kit, thank you very much. Thanks for being a great friend and colleague. And I wish you and your family the merriest of Christmas, happiest of New Year's, happy holidays.
Happy
What a
holidays,
call.
everybody, but happy holidays to you, Demetri, as well. All right.
Yeah,
We'll see you
thanks.
in the new year.
We'll see you next year.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.